And I am so on board with the mission of this company, it's unreal. You know, when Stormy asked me to come potentially speak at this event, I've spoken at a lot of events, so I thought the first thing I would do is dive into these products. But as I was saying this morning, you know, when I was done diving into the products, I was getting on the elevator to come down, and I hit the lobby, and I was like, I don't even know where this event is. And so I started asking the bellman and the guys at the front desk. They didn't know where it was. And I walked towards the door. I kid you not, you'll realize this by the end of my talk today. I felt the energy of this room from the center of the hallway in the Ritz-Carlton. I couldn't hear you, but I could feel you. I could feel you. And I started walking this way, and halfway down the hallway, I ran into two beautiful ladies. I don't know where they are. You probably remember me. Now you wish you were nice to me because I'm on stage. But they were on their way here too, and I followed them to the event. So over the next 40 minutes, I'm going to break a few laws of speaking from the stage. Number one, it says don't talk about science. All I know is science. So I'm going to talk about science. And then it's going to, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to impart some knowledge on you guys to raise your belief in these products, right? Because if you believe in these products and you understand what they do, then at the end of my speech today, I'm going to tell you about a frequency that will leave your body you have no control over, that will actually empower somebody you are talking to take every word from your mouth and put it into action. I'm going to tell you how to control somebody else's mind with your frequency, and it's a fact. It's an absolute fact, okay? So let's get started. First of all, I want to give you a little background on myself. I wasn't always in the wellness space. For 20 years, I was a mortality expert for the insurance industry. What does that mean? That means if I got 5 years of medical records on you and 5 years of demographic data, I could tell the insurance company how many more months you had left on Earth. Didn't matter if you were 82 years old and terminally ill, or if you were 30 years old, male and female, and never been to a doctor. I could tell them how many more months you had left on Earth. In fact, by the time I left that career, I was one of only 5 certified expert witnesses in federal court for litigation to predicting death. And the reason why I tell you that is because in the science of death, I found wellness and well-being. I found the science of optimal health. I found the keys to impacting people's lives in a way to help them live longer, healthier, happier lives. And I'm going to impart all that knowledge on you guys today. And it is fact-based, okay? I studied a database of 370 million lives, the largest database in the world, for 20 years. And I finally departed that career, and I'll share that story with you shortly. But in 20 years of studying how people leave this earth, you know that every human being, everyone in this room, and everyone on this planet, we all leave Mother Earth the same way. Does anybody know what the definition of death is? Isn't this an odd way to start a speech, by the way? What's the definition of death? The definition of death is hypoxia, lack of oxygen to the brain. When your brain doesn't get enough oxygen, that's when you die. Only we realized, 5 of us realized in that space, that we think of death as an event, a bullet wound, a gunshot, a bus, a heart attack, a stroke. But the truth is, 85% of this planet is slowly sliding into less and less and less oxygen, just slowly sliding into the grave. And we could tilt that bell curve. It doesn't have to happen. It doesn't have to happen. And it's an army of people like you, not physicians. It's an army of people like you that's going to change humanity. You have a chance to touch lives in a way that modern medicine is not touching lives today. Yes, I believe that. I really believe that. And the way that we're going to do it is we're going to do it by imparting the knowledge of these products onto the people that take them so that they understand the good that they do in their body. And then we're going to get them to follow a system to tilt that curve in their favor. You see, I didn't make this up. It's not in the hands of modern medicine. Does anyone know what the 3rd leading cause of death in this country is? Modern medicine, medical error. Yes, medical error. Modern medicine, the only thing that kills more people than modern medicine is cardiovascular disease and cancer. Those are not my words. It's a Harvard study repeated by Johns Hopkins. So the 3rd leading cause of death is modern medicine. So you want to leave optimal health in the hands of modern medicine? You see, we wouldn't tolerate that in any other career, right? It's not that it's the 3rd leading cause of death. It's the 3rd leading cause of death in the industry designed to prevent death. Like, that makes me twitch, right? If you were a contractor and you were the third leading cause of building collapse, or you sold security systems but you were the third leading cause of home break-ins, we wouldn't tolerate that. But for some reason, we tolerate it in modern medicine. So to change the face of humanity is not going to be left up to sick care. It's going to be left up to all of you. So I'm going to boil down 20 years of research real quick to 3 topics. We found that 3 things were so important to living longer and living healthier lives that I want to give them to you today. These are the three things that impacted people's lives more than anything. The number one thing, believe it or not, was, let me see if I can get this going here, was blood sugar control. Believe it or not, one of the top 3 leading causes of accelerated passing was blood sugar control, glycemic control. You know that the United States is still one of the few countries in the world that continues to call Alzheimer's and dementia Alzheimer's and dementia? Does anyone know what those diseases really are? You're welcome to Google it. Type 3 diabetes. Google it. Type 3 diabetes. If you Google type 3 diabetes, you're going to see Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, Kellogg University, the U.S. federal government, the National Institute of Health, the National Library of Medicine. They all know this. Elevated blood sugar causes the brain to store plaques in the little spaces in the brain between nerves. The big lie about Alzheimer's and dementia is that people lose their memory. That is not true. People lose access to their memory. They lose access to their memory. Once they lose access to their memory, that access can be restored. So we're going to talk today about blood sugar. We're going to talk about blood sugar because I think the Bible should say that blood sugar is the root of all evil, not the love of money, but because it's a part of a lot more damage than the love of money. So blood sugar was one. Hormone balance, how well your hormones worked, hormone balance. And nutrient deficiencies. Nutrient deficiency. And I tell you these 3 things because if these are the 3 leading causes of death, and we can go out in the world and we can prevent these 3 things, we can have an impact on humanity that will go so far beyond the people in this room, so many generations beyond the people in this room, that you will be imparted with the frequency of the universe to be successful. I promise you that. How many of you in this room, I want you to give me a shout out. How many in this room really want to be wealthy? How many of you want to be wealthy? All right. Does anyone know what the root meaning of the word wealthy is? Do you know where the word wealthy comes from? Well-being. The Latin root of wealthy is well-being. To be wealthy means to be healthy. If you have well-being, you are by design wealthy. So if you focus on the well-being, the universe will give you wealth. That is a fact. That is a fact. So what I did was I started looking at these products, right? And as a scientist, please don't take offense to this, I did not want to like them, okay? I'm very skeptical. I'm very hypothesis-driven. I'm very fact-based. There has to be clinical research to support it. And I thought, here was another one of those companies more interested in the sale than the value of the product and the substance of the product. And so my original inclination was to tear into them. And I'm going to take you on that journey and tell you what I found. I'm going to take you on that journey and tell you what I found. So I started by taking this Delgado coffee. You guys familiar with this? Somebody tell me one thing that's in this besides caffeine. Radiolo, okay. Reishi mushroom. Which Reishi mushroom? Red Reishi mushroom. Good. Every one of you guys should know these products as good as I do. I've been in this game a month. And I can name every product in this, every product in NutraBurst. I can tell you everything that does inside the human body, and you should too. Because if you get familiar with these, ingredients, you will impact people's well-being. And if you impact their well-being, you will be wealthy. That is a fact. That is just a fact. So I started looking at this product, and I noticed that it had the red reishi mushroom, and they combined it with, the red reishi mushroom with caffeine. So I started digging into the research. Is my computer up there? Can you guys see this? This is the cardinal sin. Okay, so I started digging into some clinical research, and if you guys want this, I'll send it to you. So I started digging into the clinical research, and here's what I found. I found that the reishi mushroom has been around for 2,000 years. And the Chinese use this herb as a herb of spiritual potency. This herb symbolizes success. It symbolizes well-being, and it symbolizes longevity. Do you know what the root word of longevity, do you know what longevity means in Chinese and longevity means in Latin? It means length of service. How long have you served? So longevity means to serve. So we need to serve the people that are interested in these products, and we need to be interested in their well-being, because longevity is not about living long, it's about living a life of service. And so my mind went boom. Okay, well, we started off pretty good. TLC. We're doing good. So I took it. I felt amazing. And I'm going to come back to these words, success, because I know everybody in here wants to be successful. Success. By the way, I just sung that song in my head to make sure I spelled it right. I think it's a TLC song about success. But success, and then what was the other one? It was well-being. We're going to come back to this, well-being and longevity. Now, I want you to put yourself in my shoes. I'm a research scientist. I got a degree in biology. I got a degree in human biology. I've got 20 years of neurochemistry research and a background in mortality. And I start digging into the science, and I see that this is an herb of divine power, well-being, success, and longevity. And I start to then piece these products together. So the next thing I did was pulled up the NutraBurst. Dude, here's where things got really interesting. I got goosebumps when I started telling this story in the suite today. I started digging into the NutraBurst. And I pulled up the research on the ingredients in NutraBurst. And I'm going to actually show it to you right now. It's long. All right, let's get up here. Okay, here we go. We're getting into the area I want to talk about. But what this research study did, this will blow your mind because it blew mine. What this research study did was it looked at the effect of B vitamins on the human body in synergy with other ingredients. Now look at this. I'm going to start right here. Okay. This study came out in 2016. Let me tell you something that blew my mind. I asked Jack backstage, right before I came to the stage, I said, when did you guys invent NutraBurst? He said, 1999. I said, it can't be. It couldn't have been 1999. The clinical research proving every ingredient in this product did not come out until 2016. Here it is. So as I dug into this research, I said, I wonder if it has thiamine. Do you know if this has thiamine in it? Somebody say yes. Okay, does it have riboflavin? Yes. Does it have niacin? Yes. Does it have folate? Does it have B12? Does it have biotin? By the way, that research came out in 2016 about the synergy of those ingredients. They've been in here since 1999. Oh, let's go. Since 1999. This movement, I promise you, is ahead of its time. I actually was looking at the new gut product. And I told Jack, This also blows my mind. Because you guys are just coming out with a product now that the research is just locking into. Because we're realizing that it's no longer about allergies and sensitivity and reactivity in the human gut. It's about the speed of the human gut, how contents move through the gut. There are people sitting in this room right now that eat foods that they think irritate their gut. There are people sitting in this room right now that think that they have a food allergy, and they don't. Usually when I have somebody tell me they have a food allergy, I ask them the question, are you ever able to eat that food and not have a reaction? If the answer is yes, then you don't have an allergy. If you're allergic to milk, you're not allergic to it on Monday morning, no longer allergic to it on Wednesday afternoon, and then re-allergic to it on Saturday morning. But you'll say, sometimes I can eat gluten, or corn, or wheat, or dairy, or soy, and I don't have a reaction. That's because allergy medicine is 1999 medicine. Modern medicine has discovered that the speed that the intestinal tract moves is more important than what we eat. And what we discovered in my research was that pathology and disease doesn't exist nearly as much as we think. In almost every case, disease and pathology is missing raw material in the human body. It's the absence of raw material. The body cannot do its job. It's just like if I asked you to make me a chocolate chip cookie, but I didn't give you brown sugar and didn't give you chocolate chips. There's nothing wrong with you. You just don't have the raw material to complete the task. Most human beings are deficient in raw materials, and that's why we get sick. That's why we get sick. If you look at modern day diagnosis, depression, anxiety, how many of you know somebody affected by either depression or anxiety? Yeah, it's rampant. 44% of this country right now is on an antidepressant. Do you know how we define depression in the United States? We define depression as an inadequate supply of serotonin, which means if your serotonin is low, you are by definition depressed. But guess what we don't do? We don't raise serotonin. The definition of depression is low serotonin, so the cure should be to raise it, but we don't. We put people on an SSRI. We take what little serotonin they have and we ration it. And that's why people are on antidepressants for 16, 18, 20 years. They come into my office. I say, how long have you been on antidepressants? 18 years, Gary. And I say, well, when did you think it was going to kick in? When did you think that this was going to kick in? What's the definition of insanity? You know what happens? Serotonin. Does anybody know where serotonin's made? In the gut. 90% of the serotonin in our brain started in our gut. If we don't have the raw material to make serotonin in the gut, it never makes it to the brain, and we are by definition depressed. So what if there was a combination of nutrients in here that would raise serotonin, clinically proven in a research study to raise serotonin that could actually end depression? I'm not making a claim about your product. I'm quoting research. It's right there. You can read it yourself. That's on a National Institute of Medicine, National Library of Medicine at the National Institute of Health. 1999, 2016. You guys think that there's something going on that you might want to be a part of? A wellness movement here, a well-being movement that you may have been called to do? Because I feel that way. I feel that way. So I kept going. So now I'm interested. I'm like, wow. 1999, the research comes out in 2016 about what this can do for the gut, what this can do for mood. See, we're like, man, why do I feel so good when I take this product? Not because you're going to make money, because it's affected your well-being. It's working. It's raw material in the human body, right? And when we're deficient in raw material, it manifests itself as disease. So then I move my way to the Slim AM. You guys familiar with this one? Okay. And please, I apologize. I'm just going science article by science article because I believe if you quote published research, you don't have to make a claim. They're making the claim. But if you quote published research, you don't have to make a claim. So in this is something called L-arginine. You know, are you guys familiar with what L-arginine does? Do you know what happens when you put L-arginine into the body? Did somebody say nitric oxide? Oh, you're in danger of a hug over there, whoever you are. Yes, L-arginine turns into something called nitrous oxide. But what it does, amongst other things, It enhances mood. It enhances mood by dilating the blood vessels. And when blood vessels dilate, blood gets to places in the brain that it couldn't get to without L-arginine dilating the pathway to get there. And if you know anything about emotion or mood, every emotional state that you can feel, every mood that a human being can experience is a combination of two things: neurotransmitters, like serotonin, and oxygen. Oxygen. If you don't have oxygen, you cannot form an emotion. You can only form low emotional states. Anger takes zero oxygen. That's why you can be dead asleep and I can pinch you and you can wake up angry. Not a human being living on this earth has ever woken up laughing. Let that sit in for a second. Not a human being walking the face of this earth has ever woken up laughing. It's impossible to wake up laughing. Why? Because laughter is an elevated emotional state. It requires a lot of oxygen to the brain. L-arginine provides that pathway. So I started digging into the research. I was reading about the L-arginine pathways, and I was summarizing the research here, and I stumbled upon the summary quote in Science Today. It said this: you guys can take this right now, and you can use this because that is from a published research article. Do you see what that says? It says, the demonstrated anti-aging benefits of L-arginine show greater potential than any pharmaceutical or nutraceutical agent ever previously discovered. Ever previously discovered. You think something good's going on here? Yeah. You think this is by accident? I don't. I sure don't. So I got really excited because when my heroes are people like David Sinclair, Harvard researchers, Dave Asprey, Brent Greenfield, biohackers from all over the world. I traveled the globe going to biohacking conferences, trying to find ways to optimize human potential. And what I have seen here, and the synergistic union between these raw materials, has absolutely just blown my mind. Has absolutely just blown my mind. So if I can get blood flow and B vitamins, which is what this research article is on, that research article said that every hormone manufactured in the human body, male and female, requires that exact cascade of B vitamins. So NutraBurst is balancing your hormones. And if I balance your hormones, I'm already shoring up one of the pillars of optimal health. If I can improve hormone balance, I can live a longer life, a happier life, a healthier life. The primary role of the red reishi mushroom is to control blood sugar. So you wake up in the morning, you get a nice caffeine burst, and you dump the reishi mushroom in there. It not only improves cognitive function, but it also balances your blood sugar. And then you take a NutraBurst, and that starts to balance your hormones. And also, remember nutrient deficiencies. The two biggest deficiencies that we saw in modern America that led people to early trips to the grave were vitamin D3 and B12. Vitamin D3 is the only vitamin that a human body can make. Your body has hundreds of vitamins floating around your bloodstream right now. You're only capable of making one. God made man and woman with the ability to make a single vitamin. How important do you think that is to human function? Very. Yes, very. 85% of the African American population is clinically deficient in this nutrient. This is the reason why COVID disproportionately affects minorities. Has nothing to do with their ethnicity, has everything to do with the pigment of their skin. If your vitamin D3 levels are low, you are more susceptible to all forms of disease. Pathology, diabetes, high blood pressure, hypertension, thyroid disease, brittle bone disease, and viral attacks. And 85% of that population is clinically deficient in vitamin D3. So how much good do you think you could do for your community just by raising the level of D3? Yeah. That ought to fire you up. That ought to fire you up, because now we're talking about putting raw materials into the human body so the human body can do its job. Because human beings were meant to thrive. We were actually meant to be stressed. You see, aging is the aggressive pursuit of comfort. Aging is the aggressive pursuit of comfort. You know, as we age, we'll tell to grandma, don't go outside, it's too cold. Put a jacket on. Oh, don't go outside, it's too hot. We eat at the first instant pang of hunger. We were not evolutionarily meant to have a cabinet full of crackers 3 feet off our elbow. It's good to be hungry. It's good to be cold. It's good to be hot. Our body defends itself when it's stressed. If you don't load your bones, they don't strengthen. If you don't tear your muscles, they don't grow. And if you don't challenge your immune system, it will weaken. I will just leave it at that. All right? If you do not challenge your immune system, it will weaken. All right? What you're doing right here in this room right now is the best thing that you can do for your immune system, and that is a fact. Human interaction. I got goosebumps right now. I kid you not. I don't know if there's a camera close enough to see these, but I have goosebumps up and down my arms right now. If you don't think that there is something afoot with these products and this company and your mission to touch people's lives, you are out of your mind. Right? You are here. You're here to promote people's well-being. And the fact that somebody in a garage, without his own knowledge, was able to develop a product that 17 years later was research clinically proven to improve humanity's function, cognitive function, well-being, hormones, nutrient deficiencies, the waking energy, the depth of delta wave of sleep, to me is absolutely mind-blowing. And I will tell you this. In 22 years of research, I have seen the word well-being appear 5 times. It was all in the research for these products. That is the God's honest gospel truth. That is the God's honest gospel truth. So there is something up here with well-being. And remember, the well-being is the root of wealth. And so I started to think about what all this meant. And Jack's right. You know, as a scientist, as a researcher, I had heard about this universal law of attraction. How many of you heard about that? All right. How many of you believe in the universal law of attraction? Do you know what the universal law of attraction really is? You see, I had disbelieved it. I thought, oh, this is a bunch of spiritual mumbo-jumbo. I am not waiting for Neptune to line up with Uranus and pass by Pluto for my luck to change so I could sign a business contract. Right? I didn't believe in these spiritual laws until one day I studied and fell upon a law of physics. You may want to write this down. Okay? Gravity is a physical law. You can ignore it, but if you jump off your balcony, it will teach you a lesson. Right? If you're going to put a plane in the sky, you cannot ignore gravity. There is another law in physics. It is called constructive interference. Constructive interference. What this law says, and by the way, when I say it's a law, this means there's no exceptions to this rule, right? There's no exceptions to this rule. So there is a law called constructive interference. It says when 2 frequencies of equal wavelength meet, the size of the frequency doubles, which means you can get energy from conversation, which means that you can get energy from touching somebody else's life. You can get energy from helping another person. You can vibe with another person, and 2 of you can create energy that neither of you had entering the room. You know what the number 1 healing factor is in the human body? Frequency. Frequency. So I decided to start studying frequency because I became obsessed with the fact that there's something that we can't see that leaves our body that we don't control, that actually can control other people, and by the way, can control my destiny. And so I started digging into the research behind frequency. And there is published research that came out of Germany called the Scale of Positive and Negative Experience. It's called Spain. I'm not going to give you all the details because you fall out of your chair. But the Spain scale was a way of measuring frequency leaving people's bodies. Right? And they got so accurate at measuring the frequency leaving a human being that they could put you in a room called a Faraday's cage, and the practitioner could sit down the hall on a different floor, and they could read your frequency, and they could tell exactly what mood you were in. Not just what mood you were in, but where you were on that mood. So in other words, you weren't just upset, you were disappointed. You weren't just disappointed, You were irate. You weren't just irate, you were angry. You weren't just passionate, you were elated. You were joyful. You were aroused. It was that accurate. And what they found was that the highest frequency that a human being can emit, the strongest frequency that can leave your body that you do not control, is a frequency called authenticity. Authenticity. How many of you know what authenticity is? Yeah. There are a couple authentic people in this company I've met. I meditated with one of them this morning. And I was all inspired because unbeknownst to Stormy, I've been studying the laws, the physical laws of frequency. And she kept repeating something in her meditation this morning that just struck me. She said, I will be truthful in my words. And that is half of authenticity, is that you are truthful. The second half of authenticity is that you believe what you're saying. If what you're saying is the truth, and you believe it, you will emit the frequency of authenticity. It is the strongest frequency that can leave your body. So if you know that, then I would get deep into the study of the products that you sell so you can believe in those products, so you can control somebody else's behavior when you talk to them about what this will do for them. Because if you believe what you're saying and what you're saying is truthful, they will change. You can actually take control of their mind. Woo! That feels good. So, and that, by the way, is a fact. I keep pointing to the science because I want you guys to pull these articles up, and I'll leave them all for you because what we're talking about is science-backed research. So every time I take the stage like this and I talk about optimal health and wellness, and I talk about disease and pathology, I always know that people's minds start running, and they start getting questions in their mind. So I'd like to take the last 15 minutes of my talk. I want to open it up to questions. You can ask me anything about the human body, about pathology, about disease, about your products, about an ailment that you have. And if you have something wrong in your body, or someone that you love has something wrong in their body, I will right here from this stage tell you the raw material that is missing in their body that they need to replace to stop that process from happening. Yes, ma'am, with the hand up there in the white. High blood pressure. So high blood pressure is also called hypertension. Okay, hypertension. I spoke not too long ago to a group full of physicians, and how many of you are in families where hypertension runs? Oh yeah, lots of you, okay? So let me tell you, the most common myth in modern medicine is that hypertension is genetic. You've been told that. You've been told you have familial hypertension. You've been told you inherited your hypertension from your mother or your father. If that's true, modern medicine has mapped the entire genome. We know every gene in the human body. Somebody tell me what gene hypertension's carried on. Hypertension doesn't have a gene. That means it's not genetic. That means genetically inherited hypertension does not exist. Genetically inherited breast cancer disposition does, the BRCA gene. Genetically inherited hypertension doesn't exist. So what is it? Why do fathers and grandfathers and sons and grandsons have hypertension? Because you inherited the raw material deficiency that leads to hypertension. That raw material deficiency is called L-methionine. It is an amino acid that reduces the most inflammatory compound in the human body, homocysteine, into something called L-methionine. So if you look in your products, your B vitamins, especially your B12 vitamins, riboflavin, niacin, zinc, magnesium, those bring down something called homocysteine. As you bring down homocysteine, blood pressure falls. Why? Because homocysteine is the most inflammatory compound in the human body. When it touches the walls of the arteries clamp down. Anytime you make the pipes in a closed system smaller, pressure goes up. Pressure is not going up because something's wrong with their cardiovascular system. I guarantee you, of all the hands that went up about hypertension, I'll ask you 5 questions. If that person you know that has hypertension has had an EKG, it was normal. If they had a stress EKG, it was normal. If they had a dye contrast study, it was normal. Their heart and lung sounds are normal. Their cardiac catheterization was normal. Well, then why the heck do they have hypertension? Because they are missing raw materials that their body needs to do its job. You guys are giving those raw material to those people. Woo! What else? Yes, ma'am, right in the middle. Hypothyroidism. Wow, you're hitting them all. Hypothyroidism. Let me tell you something about the thyroid that very, very few doctors know. Okay? Thyroid makes two hormones. Right? You can write these down. Makes two hormones. Makes T3, makes T4. Right? That's what the thyroid does. Produces two hormones. Only it produces 20% of the T3. Only 20% of the T3 hormone in your blood comes from your thyroid. But if T3 is low, we call that hypothyroid, and we medicate the thyroid. We hold the thyroid responsible for a crime it does not commit. So if the thyroid's only responsible for 20% of T3, where does the other 80% come from? It's methylated. It's taken from T4. T4 is refined into T3. 80% of thyroid hormone is T4 converted into T3. That process requires raw materials. It requires a B complex. It requires L-methionine. It requires magnesium. It requires zinc. If you're deficient in those materials, if you have a genetic deficiency in them or your diet is deficient in them, you have hypothyroid. You have hypothyroid not because your thyroid's not working. You have hypothyroid because you don't have the raw material to convert T4 into T3. And if you put that raw material in the human body, you can start that conversion process, and hypothyroid eviscerates. Hypothyroid is another one. Does anybody know what gene hypothyroid is carried on? There is no gene for hypothyroid, but we call it genetic. This is why I'm saying, guys, it's up to you. Yes, ma'am, all the way in the back with the blinky thing. You're going to have to speak up because I hope you guys are getting a lot out of this, man. I know science is tough from the stage, but I want to give you guys some knowledge. So,
my question to you.
I'll take a 5-minute break and hyperoxygenate your brain, and I'll make everyone in this room a 1/4 inch taller as soon as this question's over. Everybody, who wants to get a 1/4 inch taller? I'm telling you, I'm dead serious. We're going to do an Agasu special move to raise your body height a 1/4 inch. Yes, ma'am. Or sir.
My question to you is arthritis.
Arthritis. Okay, so arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, I assume what you're talking about. Rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune disease, right? This is where the immune system attacks the joints because it can't tell the difference between friendly tissue and foreign tissue, right? Most autoimmune diseases are just an issue where the immune system has a cloudy lens, right? So this is a process that began early in life and slowly manifested to the point where you now have arthritis. But autoimmune diseases also have their roots in poor DNA replication. Do you know that the common root of all cancer is DNA replication gone wrong? If we can fix DNA replication, then we can stop the cells from replicating the wrong way. We can stop the immune system from attacking itself. We have to feed DNA the raw material, amino acids, proteins, and vitamins, a lot of which are in your products, so that the immune system does not lose its way and begin to attack human tissue. All right, let's all stand up real quick. I'm going to refresh the room a little bit. I'm going to teach you a stretch. You guys can do this every morning. You're going to have to be arm's length away from somebody. So if you're at a table, turn sideways. All right? This is called an Agasu stretch. I'm going to flood your spine with fluid, and when you're done, you're going to be a 1/4 inch taller. It takes about 3 minutes. So what I want you to do is I want you to turn your feet in like this, pigeon-toed. All right? I want you to put your arms out like this, thumbs facing forward. I want you to twist your thumbs backward. It should hurt a little bit. Don't give in. And I want you to do 40 circles backwards. 39, 38, 37, 36, 34, 33, 32, 31, 30, 24, 20. You should see how funny this looks from up here. You guys look really silly. 10. 3, 2, 1. All right, shake them out. Shake them out. And now, what we're going to do is we're going to take pigeon toes. We're going to take our hands, put them together in front of your body just like this. Interlock. Press them down. Okay, lock your arms out straight. Bring it as far and high up over your head as you can and raise your shoulders. I want you to stare at your middle finger for 20 seconds. 19, 18. About 10 seconds left. Reach towards the sky. Your shoulders should be burning. Shoulders should be burning. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let it go. You are 1/4 of an inch taller than when you stood up. That is a fact. Your spine right now is flooding with synovial fluid. Your mood is starting to improve. Oxygen is rising in your cerebral cortex. You are in better mood now than when you first stood up. Yeah. Woo! Don't you just love science? I love science. I love it. All right, let's get a couple more questions so we can really help people. But really what I want you guys to know is you have a mission. You have a mission about well-being, not about wealth. Wealth is the reward the universe gives back. That's the alternate frequency to well-being. So if we can focus on the well-being of others, the wealth will come, and the wealth will come in abundance. That's not only written in the Bible, that's written in the science textbooks. So back there on the right-hand side with the 2 hands up waving. Yes, sir.
Sleep apnea.
Oh, sleep apnea. Oh, sleep apnea. Oh, yes, dude. So, sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is, so here's a question I'm going to throw back to you because this question is about sleep apnea. So, I ask doctors all the time, I ask them this question. Why is it that people that are the most exhausted sleep the worst? Wouldn't you think that somebody that's exhausted sleeps really well? Right? Because they're exhausted, so probably the only thing they do good is sleep. But that's not true. Because sleep apnea, exhaustion, and poor sleep are all linked to the same thing. Guess what's low when you lack energy? Energy in the human body is nothing more than oxygen in your blood. If you told me, Gary, I had a lot of energy today, physiologically what you're saying is, I had a lot of oxygen in my blood today. Oxygen equals energy. So if I can raise blood oxygen, I can raise your energy, because what you perceive as energy is nothing more than oxygen in your blood. In fact, we learned after 22 years in studying 370 million lives that the presence of oxygen is the absence of disease. The presence of oxygen is the absence of disease. So what happens when somebody is low on blood oxygen? They're tired, right? Well, what happens when somebody that's already tired and already low on oxygen goes to sleep? How do we breathe when we sleep? Very shallow. So less oxygen goes in. The brain's #1 priority is survival. When it sees blood oxygen starting to drop in your bloodstream, it begins to wake you up. How does it do that? Pulses cortisol. So people that are the most exhausted look like a bouncing rubber ball going down a hallway when they sleep, right? Boing, boing. They bounce out of delta wave of sleep. They bounce out of deep sleep into light sleep, into deep sleep, into light sleep. Sleep apnea is a blood oxygen issue. Yes, ma'am, 2 hands in the air, waving them like an air traffic controller. Yes, ma'am, I think you're wearing yellow. I got bright lights up here. Oh, inflammation. Woo! I love you. Inflammation really is the root of all evil, right? Cellular repair, waste elimination, detoxification. Inflammation is the root of all evil. So if we could get rid of inflammation, we could basically rid the body of disease. So how do we get rid of inflammation? We give the cell the raw material to do its job. Cells are voracious consumers of oxygen. If we can get oxygen into the cell, we can kick inflammation out. I happen to be part and parcel to a secret of one ingredient that's about to change in one of your products that is actually going to begin to enter your cell. It's going to drop off a metal. It's going to grab inflammation. It's going to take inflammation out of the cell. Yeah. That's coming, right? Yes, that's coming. So your products that are already good, have already gotten to great, are about to get to greater, greatest, greatabulous. I'll make up a word. So inflammation, the way to reduce inflammation is to breathe. Every one of you guys in the morning, if you want to add 7 years to your life, spend 8 minutes breathing in the morning. 8 minutes breathing in the morning. There's a style of breathing called Wim Hof. I do it every day. right? I do it every day. It's 30 rounds of 30 breaths, and it's a way of getting oxygen into our body. It will make you lightheaded. It will change the oxygen tension in your tissue. The presence of oxygen is the absence of disease. Do you know where cancer starts? Cancer starts in an acid, low oxygen, high sugar environment. You give cancer sugar, acid, and no oxygen, and it's throwing a party. You want to make your body inhospitable to cancer, improve your alkalinity, breathe more deeply, push oxygen into your body, and drop the sugar from your diet, and cancer will leave. Yes, ma'am. I love this stuff. I'm going to be here all day. What's that? Oh, you want to do the breathing? Okay, I'm going to answer her question, then I'm going to teach you how to breathe. How many of you guys want to learn that breathing technique? Okay, all right. This will enhance everything that you do. I'm afraid of what you guys will do if you learn to breathe. Good God, you guys are nuts already. This is a riled up crowd. Yes, ma'am. She's 87 and she has what?
She has heart arrhythmia.
Oh, heart arrhythmia. Okay, so do you know if it's a sinus arrhythmia? Cardiac, do you know what kind of arrhythmia?
It's linked to the cardio.
Okay, so the best thing
excited
that she can do is beef up her intake of L-arginine, right, vasodilation, and get onto a ketogenic diet. If she puts her body into ketosis will use fat as a resource. She will start to eat something out of the blood called beta-hydroxybutyrate. It's a ketone body. And you can eat fat off the walls of your artery by putting your body into ketosis. I have this argument with people all the time. They're like, oh, well, carbohydrates are necessary for life. I go, okay, well, then name an essential carbohydrate, because I'm not aware of one. There's essential fatty acids. There are essential amino acids. There is no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. They are not necessary for life. So we can drop carbohydrate, her glycemic profile to 0. We can eat fat right out of the artery if it's a sinus arrhythmia. By the way, I'm not giving medical advice. I'm not a doctor, just FYI. Yes, ma'am, right here, and then I'm going to teach you guys how to breathe. Oh, right there.
Neurodegenerative diseases. What can we do to help them to, I don't want to say be cured, but to maybe slow down the plaque that's building up on their brains so that it's not such a painful process for all of us?
Yes. So what can we do to slow down the plaques that are building up in their brains? And I love the fact that you're talking about slowing down the plaques that are building up rather than trying to take the plaques out that are there. That's what modern medicine does, right? Because, what we would like if we're, most of modern medicine is we want to manage disease, right? We don't want to cure disease, because then the gravy train stops, right? That's like being a car dealership and investing in research to sell fewer cars. Doesn't make sense. If I was an airline, I don't know if I would invest in research to sell fewer seats, right? So pharmaceutical companies are not going to invest in research to end disease. They will invest in research to manage disease. Diabetes alone is a $110 billion industry. So what we could do is we can have her breathe, lower her blood sugar intake, and move. Sitting is the new smoking. Sitting is the new smoking. The 2008 VBT table, Variable Basic Table for Mortality, upgraded sitting to the biggest health risk on the planet, not just in the United States. It's the #1 health risk in the world is sedentary lifestyle. The one thing that social media and the electronic age has done for us is plant our ass on the couch, right? And it's not just that we're getting heavier. It's that we are no longer stressing our body. We're not loading our bones, tearing our muscles, and challenging our immune systems. So we are getting weaker. So let's do 5 rounds of this breath work. Okay, we're gonna do 1 round of 5 breaths. And what you're gonna do is tomorrow morning when you wake up, I want you to do 3 things. Okay? I want you to breathe. I'm gonna show you how to do it. I want you to, if you can, I want you to do some weight-bearing exercise. If all you do is squat in your hotel room, do a push-up in your hotel room, or just statically hold yourself in place, right? I want you to stress your body. I want you to do some weight-bearing exercise. And the third thing I want you to do is I want you to apply a thermal stress. I want you to take an ice-cold shower. Yeah. I want you to take an ice-cold shower. Do you know that God has locked up a special set of proteins in your liver You're welcome to Google these. It will blow your mind. They are called heat shock proteins and cold shock proteins. They're survival proteins. You have an unlimited supply of these. You can release these beautiful little vesicles every single day. When a cold shock protein leaves the liver from being exposed to 10 minutes of ice cold water, it will scour your body of free radical oxidation, and it will quadruple the rate of protein synthesis, which means you will repair from exercise 4 times faster. And it is free. But you know what? We don't like being uncomfortable. So the choice is age faster or get uncomfortable in the morning and stop it. Okay, so I want you to sit in your chair, put both hands on your legs like this. Sit in your chair, both hands on your knees, nice and comfortable, okay? And what we're gonna do is we're gonna breathe in deeply like this, and then we're gonna let the air out until we relax. I'm not gonna keep breathing. I'm gonna like that. We're only gonna do 5. I do 3 rounds of 30. If you get lightheaded after 5, that's a very good sign. You might feel your chin tingle. You might feel your fingers tingle. Okay? So what we're going to do, let's do 5 of them together right now. When we get to the 5th breath, I want you to breathe out, and I want you to hold your breath, pressing your tongue against the roof of your mouth. Tongue against the roof of your mouth. When you can't hold your breath anymore, I want you to breathe in. And I want you to hold your breath again. And when you can't hold your breath anymore, I want you to let it out. Now, normally we would do 3 rounds of this. I want to do 1 to teach it to you guys today. Tomorrow morning, I want you to do 3 rounds of that in a comfortable spot. Work your way from 5 breaths to 30 breaths. By the time you get to 30 breaths, you will be in such a good mood when you are done this, your spouse will not be able to stand you. Trust me. Is that true, babe? I could show you some videos on my phone of me coming home from breath work with her still in the bed. Not good. Not good. So, here we go. Let's do 5 of them together. You ready? When you can't hold any longer, breathe in. Yeah. So, that is a way to elevate your mood, kick disease out of your body, ignite your NutraBurst products, ignite the caffeine and the Reishi mushroom in your bloodstream. That's the way to start your day. Follow it up with a cold shower, weight-bearing exercise. I promise you, it will change your life in a way you just cannot imagine. All right, how much time do I have before I get the hook? Is anyone keeping my time? Keep going, Gary. Okay, let's go. You guys want me to keep going? All right. So let's take a couple more questions. Yes, overactive man right here. Congestive heart failure. Yes, CHF. So congestive heart failure is a progressive disease too, right? It is also not genetic. Congestive heart failure is one of those things where pressure and fluid build up in the heart. The leading cause of congestive heart failure is sedentary lifestyle. And you know what they tell people that have congestive heart failure? Breathe oxygen and stay still. It's like telling diabetics to put shoes on while the nerves are receding in their feet. What happens when you stop stimulating something? Doesn't it recede? Like if I want nerves in my feet to grow, I need to stimulate them. The first thing I tell people that are wearing those thick shoes is take your shoes off. Buy yourself some green AstroTurf, the really prickly kind, and walk around on it all the time with your shoes off. If you sit at a desk, take your shoes off, put your feet on it. Have the nerves go towards, it's like phototropism in trees. It grows towards the sunlight. Nerves grow towards a stimulus. So for congestive heart failure, mild amount of movement and mild oxygen, the best thing they can do is learn how to breathe like what I just told you. Get air into those lungs, retrain that pulmonary pathway so that it understands that oxygen is supposed to enter the heart and reduce the fluid in the heart. The other thing that we've seen helps is adding pink Himalayan sea salt to your drinking water. Most people think salt is dehydrating. That is not true. That is not true. If you were so dehydrated right this moment that you landed in the emergency room, the first thing they would give you is a saline IV So there goes the myth about salt and water and dehydration. Yes, ma'am. Oh, eczema. So eczema is a liver condition. We think it's a skin condition, but it's a liver condition. It's a secondary route of waste elimination of the liver. So when the liver can't put poison into the blood or kick it out through stool and urine, it pushes it to the surface of the skin. Remember, your skin is the largest organ in the body, right? So it lets things in, but it also keeps things out. It is also the largest organ of secondary respiration. We get rid of salt, electrolytes, and waste through our skin. So when our liver is in crisis, it will push poison out through our skin, which appears as eczema. Yes, ma'am. Glutathione, by the way. I'm sorry, glutathione. Yes, ma'am.
And have been diagnosed with severe nerve damage like I have.
So if somebody has fibromyalgia and MS, their father has hypertension and their mother has hypothyroidism.
Okay, now with that combined, let's say, like for me, I was shot in my leg. So I have severe nerve damage. So me having fibromyalgia and having severe nerve damage, I don't get any form of rest. I'm always in pain. I'm always, it's never a painless day. And I take chaga, I take Pro-Z, I take NutraBurst, I take almost every supplement.
Yes. Okay, so there is a genetic test that you can do to look at the 5 actionable genes in the human body. You have a deficit in 1, maybe 2 of those genes. It's called a methylation test. It's a cheek swab test. It'll tell you what gene is broken in your body and exactly what deficit that you have. And in addition to what you're taking here, you can supplement for that deficiency.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, I think we still got some time to go here. I mean, yes. Next one.
Pancreatic cancer in women. Why is it found? PTSD and asthma.
And asthma. Okay, so pancreatic cancer, you might want to write this down. ADAM, Adam, TS1. Adam TS1. That gene is associated with 97.4% of all pancreatic cancer. Yet we don't think that that gene's role is significant. Adam TS1, Google it. 97.4% of all pancreatic cancer patients have a deficiency in that gene. And there's a specific supplement protocol that you can do to help from being on the victim list for pancreatic cancer by supporting the function of that gene. I can talk to you about it at a break because that's highly specific. This is like a healing session. I feel like I'm at church. I should bring people up here. So I don't want to turn this into too much of a specific talk. I'm happy to talk to all of you guys at the break. What I really wanted to do was empower you guys with the knowledge about your products today. I want you to believe in them as much as I do. Because with my 20 years of clinical research, if I think that you guys are onto something special, and I think that things that were designed in 1999 that are now being researched in 2016 are hitting the market today, then you should think they're special too. So God bless you guys. Thank you for giving me the time today. I hope I didn't bore you to tears with the science. Focus on the well-being and you will be wealthy.